Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to dive straight into the true mechanics of organizational leadership. We throw the word leadership around a lot in business, right? But today we're actually going to break down exactly what it means, how it really functions, and most importantly, how it's structurally different from just simply managing a team.
To kick things off, I want you to just take a second and picture your absolute favorite past boss. You got him in your head? Okay. Now ask yourself, did that person rely on their official job title to get you to do your work, or did they rely on genuine expertise, empathy, and influence to actually motivate you and the rest of the team? That distinction right there, that is exactly what separates a true leader from just being a boss.
Here's the roadmap for our explainer today. We're going to cover 1. Defining effective leadership, 2. Types of leadership styles, 3. Leadership versus management, and 4. Power dynamics and influence. Let's get right into it. Section 1. Defining effective leadership and understanding those core dimensions. All right, to start things off, we really need to strip away the corporate buzzwords that always seem to surround this topic. Organizational leadership is formally defined as the process of influencing, inspiring, and enabling individuals and teams to contribute enthusiastically toward achieving shared organizational objectives. Honestly, the absolutely crucial point here is that core essence of enthusiasm. It goes way, way beyond formal authority. Effective leadership is entirely about generating voluntary commitment from your team, rather than just forcing mere compliance. To kind of anchor this academic definition in reality, let's look at a massive real-world example. Think about when Satya Nadella took over Microsoft. He didn't just walk in and issue a bunch of new top-down mandates. Instead, he initiated this huge culture shift through what you might call visionary empathy. He literally moved the entire company away from this rigid, know-it-all mindset and transformed it into a curious, adaptable, learn-it-all environment. I mean, that is influence in action right there. So, how do we actually do this? Well, we can break this high-level concept down into 4 highly actionable, measurable pillars. First up is strategic vision and direction. That's about articulating a roadmap that gives everyday tasks actual, meaningful purpose. Second is emotional intelligence, or EQ, which is all about empathizing to build psychological safety. Third, we have empowerment and talent development, basically giving your team the autonomy and the mentorship they need to reach their full potential. And finally, execution and alignment, making sure that those individual efforts are directly tied to the broader business targets. You really need all 4 of these to lead effectively. Moving on to Section 2, Types of Leadership Styles. We're going to be exploring some classic and modern frameworks. So we know what leadership actually is, but what does it look like in practice? Let's take a look at Lewin's classic framework. Because, leadership isn't just a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. On one extreme, you have the autocratic style, where centralized decision-making is the whole game. This is absolutely critical for, say, emergency trauma teams or massive crisis turnaround scenarios where you need split-second decisions. On the total opposite end is the laissez-faire approach. This is a highly hands-off style that gives maximum autonomy. Now, that sounds incredibly relaxing until an unexpected crisis hits, right? But honestly, it's absolutely perfect for managing things like specialized software engineering labs or senior R&D scientists. And then, sitting right smack in the middle, is the democratic style, which relies heavily on collaborative consensus building. Building on those classic styles, we can also juxtapose 2 really common modern approaches: transformational versus transactional leadership. Transformational leaders inspire employees to surpass their own self-interest for a grand organizational vision. Think of someone like Steve Jobs at Apple, driving disruptive innovation by constantly challenging traditional industry norms. Transactional leadership, on the other hand, is laser-focused on routine operational efficiency. This is the reality for, say, a sales director managing quarterly quotas using commission tiers and structured KPIs. And the truth is, both of these styles absolutely have their place. We also really have to mention servant and situational leadership here. Servant leadership basically operates under the philosophy of lead by serving others. Southwest Airlines founder Herb Kelleher is a prime example of this. He prioritized employee satisfaction first, knowing that happy workers naturally deliver world-class service. It's a fantastic approach. Situational leadership, on the other hand, is all about adapting. It's providing step-by-step coaching to a brand new intern while simultaneously granting total hands-off autonomy to a 10-year veteran manager. You adjust based on the situation. When we compare all these styles, the big takeaway is that every single one has a perfect, ideal environment, but they also carry very distinct potential risks. For instance, the autocratic style is phenomenal for crises, but the risk? Low morale and high turnover. The transformational style shifts culture beautifully, but it can quickly lead to burnout from just continuous change.
And the servant style, while it champions employee well-being, might potentially compromise strict operational targets if you're not careful. The best leaders, the really great ones, know how to read the room and apply the right style to the exact right situation. All right, Section 3, Leadership versus Management. We're going to differentiate these complementary roles. This brings us to the ultimate corporate dilemma, and honestly, I absolutely love this quote from leadership studies pioneer Warren Bennis. He said, "The manager administers, the leader innovates. The manager maintains, the leader develops. The manager focuses on systems and structure. The leader focuses on people." I think that just perfectly hits the nail on the head. To break that down just a bit further, let's contrast their core orientations. Leadership is fundamentally about doing the right things. It's future-focused, it's visionary, and it's transformative. The primary question a true leader asks is, where are we heading and why? Management, conversely, is about doing things right. It is very present-focused, highly operational, and structured. The primary question a manager is going to ask is, how and when do we execute this efficiently? We can actually map this out using the John Kotter framework. If we look at the human network dimension, for example, management focuses on organizing, staffing, and assigning specific tasks. But leadership is about aligning people and building coalitions. For the primary outcome, management produces predictability and order, which is great. But leadership produces positive adaptive change. They are completely complementary, but they are wildly different functions. And that brings us to Section 4, Power Dynamics and Influence, understanding the bases of organizational power.
So what is the true currency of effective leadership, and where does organizational power actually come from? Well, according to French and Raven's classic framework, power generally stems from two main bases. The first is positional power. This relies strictly on your formal authority and your rank within the corporate hierarchy. It includes legitimate power, like a VP approving budgets just because of their job title. It includes reward power, which is, controlling bonuses and promotions. And it includes coercive power, which is the ability to issue formal reprimands or enforce compliance through disciplinary action.
But then we have the high-influence alternative, personal bases of power. And here's the thing, this isn't handed to you with a fancy job title. It has to be earned. This includes expert power, which is rooted deeply in specialized skills. Think of that senior cybersecurity analyst that literally everyone trusts. It also includes referent power, which stems from personal integrity, charisma, and just the pure admiration of your followers. And finally, it includes informational power, which is derived from managing critical executive insights. When we explicitly contrast the outcomes of these two power bases, honestly, the difference is incredibly stark. If you rely purely on positional or coercive power, you are going to get baseline compliance at best and active resistance or turnover at worst. But if you cultivate personal power, that expertise and referent power we just talked about, you earn true commitment and genuine psychological buy-in from your entire team. And here is the massive empirical payoff from the research. Leaders who successfully rely on personal influence rather than formal authority unlock a massive 3.5 times higher employee engagement. 3.5 times! I mean, that is the staggering difference between just demanding someone do their job and truly inspiring them to want to do it. So, to kind of synthesize everything we've covered today, sustainable organizational success just doesn't come from any one thing. It's like a giant puzzle. It requires a really delicate integration. You absolutely must lead with a compelling long-term vision. You have to adaptively manage operational execution. And above all else, you must earn the trust of your team through personal influence rather than relying on formal authority. So I want to leave you with a provocative mirror question to end this explainer. Think about your daily interactions, your emails, your meetings. Ask yourself, are you relying on your title to manage your team? Or are you relying on your influence to actually lead them? The answer to that question might just change the entire way you approach your career. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep leading the way.